Welcome everybody to the Great Northeast BJJ podcast. Keith, thanks for coming, man. I appreciate it's good to see you.
I appreciate that. It's good to see you guys. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, for sure.
How is life in Boise, Idaho?
Life sucks right now because I'm not training, man. And we were making jokes about getting fat. I was telling somebody, I put this out on Facebook, that the rhino is now turning into the hippo. So I need to go train, man.
That's awesome.
But and this is a stressful time right now for everybody. But like I said, I was telling you guys earlier, I got more time to walk my dog, and the lines, when I am out, the lines are shorter and there's nobody around. So, and our town is full of people, so there's not a lot of traffic. So, I'm trying to make the best of it, but it sucks right now not being able to train. This is what I do for a living. It's my call and profession, and I can't train. So it sucks, but I will get through it.
When was the last time you've been this long without training?
Years. I hurt my back about, 10, 11, 12 years ago. And I was out for 2 or 3 months with a hurt back. So that really sucked. Oh, I broke my ankle one time too. So I was out for 3 months then. So it's not the longest I've been out, but I haven't been out this long, 10 years. I train every week, man. I'm training. It's what I do. I got to get better at it. So, it's just the way it is. It's nobody's fault.
So for people that are listening to this or watching this, I met you a few years ago at Rob McGow's, and it was really a lucky thing for us. We knew Rob. I don't even know. We barely knew Rob. And I was like, hey, Rob, we got this podcast. Do you think you could ask Pedro Sauer if he would be on it when he comes to town to do this seminar, even though you don't know me and he doesn't know me? And Rob was like, yeah, of course I will. And so we went down and did that podcast, and you were there. And it turned out to be one of my favorites that to have Pedro Sauer, who I didn't know and now I've grown to love, and to have two of his black belts on the podcast at the same time was like fantastic.
Yeah.
And the coolest thing I think about it, or one of the cool parts about it was, we talked about jiu-jitsu the whole time, but really what we talked about, I feel like, was using jiu-jitsu to change people's lives.
Yes, absolutely.
So
go ahead. Sorry.
So that was like, it was a great, and I've talked to Pedro Sauer since then. I've been to another seminar of his, and to see you guys with him, it was great to see and be a part of, and to see how you guys all live jiu-jitsu. So that changed a lot of like the course of what I do or how I look at jiu-jitsu in some ways. Nice. Yeah. And so, man, when this started happening, we started cranking out the podcasts like of people that aren't local. And obviously I'm in New Hampshire and you are in Idaho. Mm-hmm. It seemed like the perfect time to do this.
I appreciate it. And Professor Sauer has had a remarkable influence on my life as well. That podcast was really interesting because we don't normally talk that way. We will talk that way, but just his very teachings that he has done over the years have made most of the black belt, Pedro Sauer black belts, very focused on becoming a better person, and let's make no mistake, man. Jiu-jitsu is about kicking people's ass. Okay. That I'm just telling you right there, but so what? You can kick everybody's ass. What kind of vehicle is it after that? And we only want to teach good people jiu-jitsu. First of all, I don't want to teach bad people jiu-jitsu because then we're making bullies in the world. So we're looking for good people. If you want to be my student, you got to be a good person. I think we can distill it down to that is I'm looking for good people. And there's a lot of not so good people that do jiu-jitsu. I just don't want to be part of that. And neither does Master Sauer. And if we can touch your lives like that, where you become focusing on yourself as a better person while doing jiu-jitsu, man, the repercussions of that will happen all through history. Way past when we're dead, and that's what Master Sauer has provided for me, a template to actually become really good person. I follow his lead on a lot of things. And isn't he just a cool guy? Dude's awesome.
Yeah, he really is. He's awesome. I loved him right away. As soon as I met him, you could tell that there was something special about him, you know?
Yeah, he literally is the greatest jiu-jitsu instructor in the world. I feel no offense to anybody listening out there, but the guy, man, he just, I was in Kansas City with him 2 months ago, right before this whole pandemic shut everything down. And man, I was at this seminar, and again, he blew my mind with the moves he was bringing. Just simple, easy things that you don't think about and make anybody better.
Little things, you know.
Things, yeah. Not big, funky, fancy moves. That's not. But he doesn't need them, and you know, he just shows you how to break down body posture and using mechanics to break down the skeleton of your body, and it's just awesome. So I had a great time, and still after all these years, totally learning new things all the time from him. So, and reaffirming what I already know, what he's already taught me too.
He's the kind of guy. I feel like when you're in the room with him, you just feel you feel better about, you know, like he makes you feel good being around him, and it's not phony. It's real. Like I'm sure, and I've never rolled with him. I'm sure rolling with him he probably didn't make you feel good.
He kicked the shit out of me so thoroughly that I still have post-traumatic stress to this day, and he didn't even like try. It wasn't like even. I haven't rolled with him for a while, but the last time I rolled with him, we're grappling. Because I'm bigger than him, so he had me in his guard, and he goes, "KeithOwen, it's time for me to choke you now." And I'm like, "Oh, Professor, no, I'm a black belt, dude. You're just not gonna." And then he choked me, and like right as I'm talking, and he just chokes me, and so he's just a phenomenal. I mean, he can do everything. He can do everything that he teaches too, and just amazing. And he's gotten better. I can't believe it. Just gotten better. The older he gets, he's like fine wine, man. He just gets better with age. So, and it's nothing. He's going to be 80 or 90 years old and still be able to do jiu-jitsu. And that's what you want your jiu-jitsu to be about. Is can you do it when you're 80 years old and still have a game to you?
And this is why I was emphasizing, because Riddler is always talking about rolling forever. And a lot of the conversation that you, Master Sauer, and I had was talking about Elio rolling till he was I was like, did he roll till he was 95? He's like, no, 92. And we all talked about rolling forever and the mentality that it takes to do that.
Yes. Well, let's get a couple of things straight. First off, the reason what George is trying to say is that I'm 56, so I'm super old, and that's what he's really trying to say. Not he's being polite because Amanda's there, but what he's trying to say is he needs somebody to represent being super old. So, yeah, I like the idea of rolling forever. I've actually known George for 20-something years. I started judo. He was already vitamin G wearing the green belt, so, that was a different thing. But I wanted to make a comment about Pedro Sauer. I've never met Master Sauer. I've never, I don't have any personal relationship with him like you guys do. But the funny thing is, I came into jiu-jitsu out of judo, so I had a number of years of judo, and just like anybody who would do that, you come into jiu-jitsu and you wonder, this is different. You want to be loyal to your art, you want to think da-da-da. But obviously I had the same experience most people did, which is I come in with certain strengths, but I still got my everything got destroyed right away. And it was funny because one of the first things that I saw with jiu-jitsu was on the internet, was on YouTube, and you probably know where I'm going with this. It's Pedro Sauer and this huge bodybuilder dude, Lance something. And
Lance Bachelor.
Okay, Lance Bachelor. And
Mr. Utah.
I mean, beyond we're all jiu-jitsu people. Most of the people who listen to this podcast are jiu-jitsu people. So beyond the fact that you're pretty much, once you've had a couple of years in, you got a lot of advantages over anybody who isn't, going to be able to do this or who isn't trained. But just a total dismantling. And, at that point, it couldn't be more, small versus big or whatever. And the thing was, so I had this impression of what this man is like, because there's no talking in there. And then, I don't know, a couple of years later, I'm watching some video, and there's this super nice guy, you know, with very composed, calm, direct. It's not saying all the time, just straightforward, right? And I'm thinking, oh, that's cool. It's a little older than most of the other people that I know. You know, that's someone who, you know, I can look, and I'm like, wait a minute, that can't be possibly the same dude, right?
Yep.
Now, of course, a couple of years later into your jiu-jitsu career, you understand how all that happens. But I think that's where I'm relating to the idea of rolling forever, which is that the problem with the roll forever concept is the people that are rolling forever are usually black belts, right? So there's sort of a little bit of a feedback loop here. And so that's one of the things I found was interesting, was that you see a number of older people going, but you don't see that many smaller, older people who are rolling hard and doing all the great work. And I think that was just something that made an impression on me right away. And I'd love to meet him someday.
He's definitely a great man. And I've seen him mad on a couple occasions, man, and you don't want to get him mad.
I'm certain of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't, he'll fight. I mean, I've seen that a couple times too. But overall, he's just a good person. He's just a good human being. So I guess when you're a black belt in jiu-jitsu, you can be as nice as you want, because anybody gives you a hard time, you know, break their arm, choke them out, do whatever. So, and you can, you know, and obviously I'm not as significantly as old as you are, but
I understand that I represent the elderly in this.
Yeah, no, as an elderly man, you know that you know, you're hoping that you can get to, you know, that advanced age and still grapple, and I assure you can. You will, if you follow the Pedro Sauer thought process of jiu-jitsu.
Right. Well, we're lucky to roll with an interesting group where that you know, that spans all the way from people who, you know, compete on the world level all the way down to people who are just super casual. And you know, I mean, I'm lucky. That's one of the reasons why I'm at the club that I'm at. But it's great to see that around. And the other thing is that it's great to see, you do see older people, older professors who won't roll. You see older professors who are, I mean, if you're injured and you can't do it, you can't do it. But I think it's more, you know, hiding behind the idea that they're getting older and all that. And
yes,
it's fantastic to see this passed on. What do you think? Are you gonna keep this going? I know it's a business as well, but yeah, are you gonna?
Am I gonna keep grappling?
Yeah,
I'm in it till I'm 90. I'm gonna grapple all the time. So I have no, whatever anybody else does. If you're a black belt and you don't want to grapple anymore, that's okay with me. That's fine. But I know personally that I am going this thing that I'm doing is going to last till I'm 90 years old. All right. The study that I'm doing on jiu-jitsu. So you got to put it to the test. You got to make sure that, you know, how can I know jiu-jitsu if I don't put it to the test all the time? It doesn't matter if you're 21 or you're 51 or whatever. It's got to, you know, they're way bigger than me, way smaller than me. I think one of the things that will help to understand in jiu-jitsu too, I think I'm going off on a tangent right now, but
that's a good idea.
And I do that all the time, and I just talk to myself. But I think if you always think of jiu-jitsu in this thought, that everybody that you grapple is 50 pounds heavier than you, right? And younger than you. If you will keep that in your mind when you're grappling and make your game off of that, like, because you've grappled with big, huge guys before and they're clonking you down. That should be the norm and not somebody your size or lower. I mean, because what you can do is somebody against your weight class, fantastic, all right? You can be a little more athletic. But if a dude's always bigger than you, then that technique will shine through. And if you can beat up on guys, submit guys, you know, roll around with guys and carry yourself against people that are bigger and stronger, then you know your jiu-jitsu is on the right track and you're not getting injured at the same time.
Right. One of the aspects of this is how far you get ahead at what time in your life, where your injuries are. Regretfully, I brought some really terrible knees, bad injuries and bad, you know, they're both repaired and ACLs and all that kind of stuff. I don't have any bones, and then we don't have any cartilage in the left knee. And so that makes learning things more difficult on one level. I'm not complaining. I'm saying that I'm happy that I got a lot of stuff early so that I got out in front. I want to be encouraging to people that are in that sort of 30 to 50 age group that this is the time you got to get it going. It gets harder to get dramatically better quickly, as at least in my experience, as I get older, because the difference between, so I come in at 178, like we got some 200 plus 25-year-old guy who's competing. It's going to be a rough day for me, and I don't mind. I mean, it's fun. I'm going to have fun no matter what. But speaking on behalf of the older grappler, it feels like I'm asking you to sort of weigh in on that as you slowly, maybe 10 years from now, you're going to be where I am. And 15 years, I don't know.
20
years. So when you get there, it's like, what do you think? Obviously you have students that are in that situation there. How do you approach that? How do you keep them getting better? In other words, I'm fine staying here. I mean, I'll probably be this way for the rest of the time. Getting a lot better is rough because I'm slowing down. I'm getting weaker. It's harder to keep the energy up.
Yes.
What do you think?
Well, this is a different thought process of jiu-jitsu that I have than normal people. And this comes from Professor Sauer as well. And I told you that if a guy's 50 pounds heavier and your jiu-jitsu's working, that's good, right? And what we got to rely on is we can't rely on, as you get older, people call it old man jiu-jitsu, and I just call it jiu-jitsu, man. I don't put it in a category like that, because I promise you, if I sat down and started teaching you jiu-jitsu what to do, I would show you ways that you could use your body in postures that will keep you strong and keep you and be able to keep a platform under you, a base under you that will help you, where you don't have to go faster, stronger. I always tell people that doing jiu-jitsu is like investing money, investing in whatever you're doing, real estate or whatever. If I had an investment that if you gave me $1 and I gave you $10 in return, and it was on the up and up, and I could actually do it, I can't, but I actually do this investment. And again, you paid $1 and got 10 in return. Would you want to do that and you trusted me? Would you want to do that investment with me? You would probably go, oh, hell yeah. And you'd be calling me up all the time going, hey, I'd like to invest some more money because I like where this is going. Well, in jiu-jitsu, when you're practicing, you want to do everything that you do. When you invest $1 of energy, and I don't really know what $1 of energy is, but $1 of energy, you should be able to get 10 in return for whatever you do. That way, when you're grappling, I don't care how big they are or young or fast or anything like that, you're using body mechanics in such a way that you're able to like sweep people easy. You've swept people easy and got on them and you went, whoa, that was pretty easy. That's how we want to have jiu-jitsu when we're older. But if you're going against somebody super hard and you're trying to push back when they push you and you push them, I'm going to tell you, the younger guy's going to win, man. So sometimes you got to yield and trick them and go flow with the go, as Hickson Gracie says. And it's hard to express that to you verbally, but if I showed you, you go, oh, I see how it is. And just the process of which you use jiu-jitsu can really help you and hinder him. So I don't know if that was a great answer, but jiu-jitsu shouldn't be about how much muscle you have to exert. It's the less you use, the better. And it's about the technique. Amazing.
Absolutely.
Master Sauer shows it just excellently. The small guy, how he just, has his way with people.
I feel like I saw one time in search of the perfect technique.
Yes. We're in search of the perfect body mechanics with perfect timing, perfect technique, perfect move. And it can't rely on what your opponent is doing, because he's trying to kick your ass. He's going after you, right? But if you do everything perfect, right? You've had so much experience and you've worked with it, and you do everything perfectly, you'd be so surprised at how little energy you use and how much maximum energy they have to use to get you. And I'm not saying that that jiu-jitsu beats strength. Okay, I am not saying that, because jiu-jitsu is not perfect. But you better have a lot of strength. If you're coming to grapple, you better have a lot of strength, and you better not ever get tired. All right, because if you start to get tired, your strength goes down, and then that's how you wear people down, especially when they're 50, 60 pounds heavier than you. And some people are just small and they're going to have to wear people down and survive, right? If you can't win, survive. And it's nice to win immediately, but what do you do when a guy's 60 pounds heavier than you? And then it gets worse when he's your belt level, and then so as you get older, I suppose, first of all, your basics are good and you're surviving, and you're waiting for that perfect time to invest your money to get a 10-time return out of it. That's what we're searching for in that perfect look for jiu-jitsu.
Kind of what you're saying. What you're saying hits every time. You're hitting all the spots. Because if someone could be, I don't care how big they are, strong they are, they can come in. If they don't know what they're doing, if these are a white belt, I'm not worried about it at all. So it's not about that. It is that search for being able to do that to somebody who's 50 pounds heavier and is a black belt. That's a hell of a mountain. It's a hell of a mountain. But
I grapple black belts all the time. I'm a big guy. So let's take it from a big guy's standpoint. Well, you're a big guy. You have that weight. You can just do that to people. So what I do when I grapple with people as a big guy, I try to tone it down where I'm 1% better. My output is 1% more. I shouldn't say output. I'm only trying to go 1% above the person I'm grappling with. And sometimes I have
scaling
to go higher. Yeah, I don't have to, so I have this white belt, brand new, I crush him and I crush the soul out of him. Well, that does little good for his learning, and it makes me have to rely on, my bigness to be able to submit people. And I don't want that. As a big person, as you get older, you take your bigness away and even it out a little bit more depending on who you're grappling. If I were going to grapple a blue belt young lady, or I'm grappling with her, I don't have to crush her because I'm 100 pounds heavier than her. I just try to go 1%, and it makes it fun for her to roll, and it makes me a lot more technical because I don't have to exert all my force to be able to accomplish anything. And if a dude is super good, all right, that's fine. I will survive, but I'm not trying to out-muscle him or go faster than this dude. And I know that's hard to understand when I'm talking about it, but as you get older and you get to be a black belt, you see it. It's like, wow, you can make your body do these things. And you'll be so surprised at how you're it's not that hard to do if you've just went in the search of the perfect technique all of your life.
I heard you say too that, and I think it ties in with this, is that, I don't know if you said you should be tapping, but it's okay to tap in the academy when you're rolling with your friends and having fun. And if you're competing, you should be trying to win. And if you're on the street, you have to win. But in the academy, it's okay to tap, right? Just tap.
And what you're saying right now is going to freak people out, and you're going to trigger them right now where they go, no, it's all about winning. No way, we win. Every time it's about winning. And I say, yes.
Used to this, yeah.
It is. Winning is important in jiu-jitsu. I got that. But you know what? You don't have to win. If your winning is going to come in spite of you getting better, all right? And here's what I mean by that. If I grappled with one of you and I had to win, I would use the same old moves that I know will succeed every single time, all right? The go-to moves that KeithOwen has where I got to win right now. I got it. The problem is if I have to win, I'm going to use those moves most of the time because, again, if I lose, what's going to happen? Oh, I can't believe you tapped to him. What are you tapping it for? And all of that. I just know that if I want to get better, I can't be afraid to tap. All right. Because even at a black belt level, what can I do to improve? Well, I can get put in arm bars and escape. I can get put in triangles. Literally, I get put in triangles, and then I try to escape. I got to tell you, sometimes I haven't been able to escape some people's triangles when I put myself in them. Because you can defend those triangles all the time. I'll just defend and I'll never get into them. But what happens when you do get into them? Well, I don't know, because I'm not going to get into them, because if I tap, everyone's going to make fun of me, or they're going to put me down, or right. But you have to. I think of jiu-jitsu as like you're surfing. You see the videos of the surfing contests where these guys are on this huge wave and they're right here and it's just about to crash on them, but yet it just doesn't. And that's jiu-jitsu. Sometimes you're in an arm bar and you're literally trying to work to escape, and you're like riding the top of the crest of that wave, and it could crash at any time, and you mysteriously and magically get away. And you're never going to get that if you don't put yourself in those positions. And that's why tapping, like, I want you to win, but I want you to win in a long-term situation and not the short-term. And you know as well as I do, people get into these situations where they're about to tap, so then they freak out, they spaz out, maybe they use muscle to escape. And really, it's just teaching your body bad habits. Oh, I'll just muscle out of it. Well, fantastic. What do we do when we're 80 years old? We're not going to be able to muscle out of that. So you have to learn the technique. But Keith, if I learn the technique, I'm going to get tapped out, and then I'm going to look bad. Well, why don't you tell everybody to F off, and one day that no one's going to be tapping you out, right? Quit worrying about it. But it's tough in schools because the master is like chewing on people, and failure is an option in the school. Let me repeat that. Failure is an option in the school. Failure is not an option at the tournament, and it is sure as hell not an option out there in the street. Okay. Now, if you're going to get your arm broken at the tournament, yeah, you don't want to get injured, but you're out there to win. And I got it. I got that. But you can't be in the school every single day with that exact attitude. Master Sauer says it's like driving your car 100 miles through the desert at 100 miles an hour every single day. And what's going to happen, it's 100-degree heat. What's going to happen is your car is going to break down one day, man. You think about it. Your car is going to break down one day. So when we practice, we want to come from it like it's a laboratory, man. We're just trying to get better using that technique and understanding body mechanics. And if we lose, man, we tap. I try to tap all the time. Just to let you know, I try to set an example, and I'm grappling with my students. I will literally, I'm to the point now, and I'm not trying to brag, but you've gone through this so much that you see people doing stuff and you go, wow, oh, they're doing this to me. Look. And so finally you just let it go enough. And sometimes you just let them have it, especially if you've been working on the moves with them, right? And you just tap. And my guys are used to tapping me out, but they know that I'm doing them a favor. And I'm trying to set an example rather than, oh, I actually got Keith. Sometimes they get me. I mean, every once in a while. But most of the time, I'm so far ahead of it that I see it that it's like, wow, you're not going to get me with this, but I'll keep climbing in the hole just so I can escape. So if I'm going to do that, I can't be worried. Oh, the black belt, the professor tapped. I'll tap all the time. It's not a big deal. But it's not a good look at your school. But I mean, there are some schools that go, if you tap, you're a loser, and that makes you go real hard. And and you have that attitude of I can't lose. But I just think it doesn't build you into a master of jiu-jitsu when you're to get to 80 and 90 years old. All right, and that's what we're trying to do at my school is build you into a master.
You can't roll forever if you're trying to win every round at the academy, right?
Right. And there's nothing wrong with tapping people out. I like it. But if you could I love when I can tap people out and I didn't hardly even try. And they were like, wow, you didn't have to muscle anything. And it shows them the potential of what jiu-jitsu can be. But if you're like, oh, I'm just going as hard as I can and I'm using sheer force on people, I really don't think they, and I don't know, I haven't taken a survey with everybody, but I think they just don't appreciate it as much or respect that as much as you have to use your natural athletic ability. I mean, but how do I teach natural athletic ability to other students? I mean, I can't.
I feel like there's a personality aspect to this too. That I don't have a problem with the bulldog tattoo school. Everybody just goes and kills each other. There are people who want to be in that situation, and that's a great situation for them. I'm not shitting on that. It's the idea, though, that in the situation that you're describing, like. I think once you've been going for a couple of years, so I'm like a relatively decent purple belt, and it's like so this is something that I experience, and I'm sure everybody else does with brand new people that come in. So I'll grab somebody and say, hey, let's train. It'll be fun. I'll make it fun. We'll go and do this, and you can just see everything they're going to do, and it really doesn't matter how big they are, how fast they are, what they're doing, because they're just not doing things that I can see it. Yes. And so then, of course, that I know is part of the journey that I'm on, which is that, and then there's this other stuff that I can't see. And then there's that other aspect, which, of course, is the best if I can pull it off, where I'm going to present you something that you can see, but, oh, shit, you didn't see that, did you?
Yes,
like giving them a fork to choose one or the other, right? And then, of course, I think as all of us get a little better at it, if we can address people who've been doing it for more than a couple of years, but haven't, completed that first part of the journey of the black belt, I think that's the most fascinating part for me, is when something's happening and I'm going, you know what? I honestly do not understand what's happening right now. Super frustrating. And the funny thing is, it's one of these things, at least in my experience, so I'm pretty decent with the stand-up because I had so many years of judo. And so a lot of times I'll just put it on and be the same thing. Here, no. You're so far ahead, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's the thing that I wish I could unlock for other people. I see it in other people. It gets frustrating. They learn a couple of things and they're looking down into this, deep cavern of like all of this stuff they don't understand. The first time someone barambolos you really well, where it's not just they're going over there, but something else is happening too. They're doing choices back there, right? Mm-hmm. What do you do? How do you approach that with your students? I mean, when you see those students that have been doing it long enough so they can see it, but they're not seeing it all yet, what's that encouragement? Is it just follow the leader kind of encouragement? How do you address that?
Well, I personally think that people need me up to about purple belt. And once you get to be a purple belt, dude, you're teaching yourself now. I've gotten you the technique of the understanding of it, right? I've explained the concept of being able to do jiu-jitsu, because it's not just about moves. Jiu-jitsu is not about moves and submissions. It's about what you do in between all those moves and submissions, sweeps and counters that you're doing. How do you hold your body? Where do you place it? What do you do? Should this hand be here? Should this hand be here? I teach that to you at purple belt. Once you're at purple belt, I think you can teach yourself. All right.
Yeah. I can't believe I just did that.
Yes,
damn it. Oh no. Why is that over there? Yeah.
And I expect my purple belts too, and this is what I tell them, I expect my purple belts to teach blue belts and white belts as well when you're working with them, because when you teach, two people learn. So I always want, and because they can talk it back and go, oh, I understand what I'm doing, because as you go, you'll get more understanding about yourself. After a while, when you get to brown belt, I'm just kind of like, I don't know, just this personal assistant that will help you if you have a question. But most of the time, you're starting to get yourself to that point anyway. Then it becomes just about grappling, right? And you already have a lot of moves that you're trying to get your game. But I've already taught you the fundamentals. Now I'll teach you the funky moves. At brown belt, you want some funky moves? All right, here they are. Right? These are right? Because there's a whole other game too. Like you just pointed out, right? Once I have my understanding of jiu-jitsu, I got my hands moving through here. Like once you understand jiu-jitsu, then you need to understand the other things, like the con is on, like he just said, right? I'm going to doing this, but you're thinking I'm doing this, but I go to this other thing, right? Submission on the transition, not just in the position, but you're on the transition of it, right? When you're moving to something else, you learn to attack right as things are moving. These are the things 100%, that you keep piling on to yourself. And that's what I force my students to do, right? And the self-teaching, man, when you get to a point where self-teaching happens, you're going to be fantastic. Let me just say this. However, self-teaching happens at purple belt, really having an understanding of jiu-jitsu begins at black belt. Once you get your black belt, the understanding part of jiu-jitsu really starts to kick in, and people just get their black belt and they quit. And now you're really ready to understand jiu-jitsu and the ways that we're talking about to be able to get you to 60, 70, 80 years old. If I could just say this story real fast, because Master Sauer tells a story of when he goes to Brazil all the time. He has a house in Brazil that he likes to go to, and they do camps and things like that there. And he was telling me one time that people in Brazil, a lot of the black belts in Brazil, they retire at 40, 45, and they stop training with their students, because the students at 21, if we're using a lot of athletic ability, the younger guy's going to win, right? And you're not using the cheating aspect of jiu-jitsu, and jiu-jitsu isn't fair, and there's a cheating aspect of it if you use it correctly, right? And you have to discover the cheating aspect of it, right? And it's there. And when you understand that, then you're able to be the 21-year-old. But if you're going athletic ability to athletic ability at 40 years old, you're screwed. You're not. Things are going to get hurt, or you're not going to be the same. It's glory days in that idea. So what they do is they quit and they always retire, and they never. And that goes against what Elio Gracie is trying to teach: is that we want to have jiu-jitsu for all of our life. You know, Gracie Bahat says jiu-jitsu is for everyone, right? Yes, and it's for everyone for all your life, you know? It's for your entire life, right? You should be 80. Now, are you going to grapple at 80 like you did at 40? Well, hopefully you have that awesome technique that you can handle yourself. Obviously, I've not made it to 80, but I see I've grappled a lot of older guys who are black belts, and they do just fine. You know, so.
Right. I mean, so let me throw, I don't know you that well, but I get the feeling you can handle this kind of thing. So I'll throw a devil's advocate out here, right? So
got it.
Obviously at some point, you have to go to the reality of competition. The reality of competition is that the 40-year-olds are very few times winning the opens, the absolutes,
Absolutely.
things like that. There's a reason why everybody pretty much bails out around 35, that kind of thing, with some exceptions, of course, right? And so if this is really true, the devil's advocate in me, this is that old judo thing. Judo is pretty cool. You do it and then you kind of teach it. You know, there's no making believe that you're going to beat up these guys when you're 70, because it's just not happening, right? Because there's a lot of bullying around, and it's very, very that. So of course, there are some exceptions to that rule as well. So how do you approach that kind of a thought process in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? I mean, the reality is, if people were 50 and they could beat everybody up at the Worlds at 25, they'd do it and get the medal. Right. So how do you balance those two things? And I apologize if that's too aggressive. I mean, of course, I have my own opinion and I have a great answer for that too, but I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Yes, well, I appreciate that question too. That's a refreshing question to ask. Again, there are two kinds of jiu-jitsu that you need to understand. Okay, there is the sport side of jiu-jitsu, and then there's the Gracie side of jiu-jitsu, and that's what I teach, is the Gracie side of jiu-jitsu. The sport jiu-jitsu is you're going up against a guy in your weight class. All right. So when you're going up against a guy in your weight class, you can use a lot of aggression, all of those things. And again, I think if all things being equal in that weight class, the younger guy is going to win. But my attitude is that, again, we're always grappling somebody who's going to be 50 pounds heavier than us. So if you're grappling someone 50 pounds heavier than you, can you submit that dude right away if he's your equal? No way. What you're doing is you're surviving, right? We're trying to survive and not get submitted first. So Elio Gracie was always saying that if you can't win the fight, don't lose. Okay, so as you get older, what happens is your jiu-jitsu gets to a point where the defense is so good that he can't get you in anything, and then you can start your attack because your defense is so good. So my point is, when you're young, it's great to go on the attack because you only have like 5 minutes, and I got to get on this and go fast. But in the real world of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, I can go as long as I want, right? I don't care, right? We can go as long as I want. If you're 50, 60, 70 pounds heavier than me, I can't cut this tree down in 1 minute or 2 minutes. But if I can survive your onslaught and then catch you in something, I mean, that's the kind of game that you're going to have to switch to as you get older, right? A defensive game of don't get caught in anything, which isn't really that hard because, I mean, No,
I know, yeah.
As you get older, you've been around the block and you see all the attacks that are coming. They got to get tricky on you. And if you can just frustrate the shit out of a younger guy, first of all, that's good in and of itself. But that's not enough. We got to win, right? But again, you're not going to cut that tree down in just a small amount of time. And that's like a little small guy, 120, and he's supposed to go up against a 220-pound guy. Well, it's not equal, all things being equal. However, if we're at a tournament and they're in your weight class with this time limit, with this certain amount of rules, and I got to get on that, it forces you to push the match more. So if you have to push the match more, how does an older guy push that in a cardio aspect against a younger dude? It's just really super hard. So so the game plan is changing, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, you make a really good point, or a really cogent point. As soon as you say, what if you take the time limit away?
Yeah.
What if you take the idea that 5 minutes from now, somebody's going to get their hand raised? So, you're changing it from a sprint to
a marathon,
whatever kind of race it ends up being, rather
Yes.
than it could be a marathon, but it doesn't have to be. But the point is, one of the things I love, so I'm a musician, right? And I love playing improvisation with other people, and it takes a certain sort of mindset to do that. And one of the things I love about jiu-jitsu, judo, any of these kind of things is they're sudden death sports. At any time, just the other day I was rolling with someone who I'm not going to name and who's way better than me, and we're doing the thing, and I just did the classic, I'm way older, right? And I just look right at the clock, and I got 15 seconds, and I look right back, right?
Yes.
Because you are not going to get me in, damn it, wrist lock, right? I'm like, no, we weren't doing wrist locks, right? See? So I guess what I'm getting at is when there's a time limit, that's an interesting way of looking at it. So George, so what's been going on at the club. Our club is it's an interesting sort of setup. It's people aren't making a living at it, right? And it's not 300 people coming in and out. It's as much of a club as it is an academy. Where there's incredibly high level instruction. There's a lot of personal relationship to the club. You can call somebody and say, hey, we want to go and roll. You want to get down there and we'll go roll. And one of the things that's been happening is I've been showing up every Sunday morning until this whole COVID thing came along, and basically running an open mat along with George sometimes, depends on if you're there or not. But I like those because we can roll for a long time. Or there's no timer on. I got to be honest. I mean, there's a time where I like the timer, but there's a lot of times where I'm really not into that. George, do you find is that bothering you, or do you find this to be?
I love it, man. Sometimes we'll do a 20-minute roll, a 20-minute round is very different than a 6-minute round.
It's really different.
Absolutely.
Really, 6 minutes. And sometimes I try to, if I'm teaching on a weird night. Sometimes I will do long rounds and tell people hey, because we got some savage athletic dudes, and so
world level.
And sometimes it's hard for little George, who's small, to get them out of the mindset, because I can tell.
Hang on a minute. Are you whining right now? Is this whining?
No.
Really? It's
whining.
your podcast. You can't whine on the podcast.
I can whine if I want on my podcast. But if I'm telling somebody, if I'm listen, you got to use less strength and all this stuff, and they're they don't there's people that don't, it doesn't compute, right? But if I make the round 12 minutes long, I don't have to tell you. You're going to figure it out 8 minutes in that you shouldn't have went,
and invested all your money poorly.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Yes.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I'll even do this too. At my schools, we have a timer, obviously, but I say 30-40% of the time I don't even turn the timer on. I go, the timer's in my head. So whenever we're done, whenever I say change. So that way they don't know when it's, and so, right. And you go, oh, I love people who go, oh, we're just doing a light flow row. That's the only kind of roll there is you should be doing a light flow row. Even if he's attacking you at full force, your body should be able to withstand that and be able to handle that. One more thing I want to say, I don't mean to hijack this here, but one more thing I want to say is
you keep rushing. Don't rush. This is great. I mean, it's so fascinating listening to what you're saying, Keith. Thank you.
And none of us have anything to do. We can't grapple.
Yeah, I get you now. The point system can be a little tough on people as well, right? Because if you're in my, if I have you in my guard and you pass my guard into side control, oh my gosh, you're going to get points and I'm going to lose it. But in the real scheme of things, so you pass my guard. I don't really care. Now I'm working on my side control. It's okay. And I should be able to, work my side control and not feel like, oh my gosh, I'm under this point pressure that which creates some bad habits too. I mean, oh, he passes my guard, so maybe I turn away from him and get up on my knees so you can't get your points, but then he starts attacking my back or something like that. It can lead to some bad habits in jiu-jitsu, and I'm not knocking sport jiu-jitsu because people right now are going to think, wow, you're knocking sport jiu-jitsu. I'm just saying that's a sport. In traditional jiu-jitsu, and when you're traditional jiu-jitsu, when you're grappling in the school, this is all I'm saying. When you are grappling on that blue or red or green mat, you should be in side control a lot. You should be on the bottom. You should let people mount on top of you. You should let people get your back. That way you can practice escaping, right? And I'm in those positions all the time. I want to get so good at defending all those positions that you can't get me. Then I'm going to launch my attack on you. And then we're going to win. And then I'm going to win. And that's how you can be 80 years old or 70 years old, is that, again, your defense is so good that you've practiced it. But if you're so worried about, wow, if he passes my guard, I got to keep this guard, man, I can't let him pass this, and he gets to the side, then you're like, somehow you've done something wrong. Well, man, I'm going to tell you, if you're in a real street fight or something like that, yeah, things are going to go wrong, and you just got to be able to deal with it. And you should be comfortable being uncomfortable. You hear that, you've heard that before. But how can you do that if you don't get into these certain positions, right? You don't. And I always say the lucky guy is on the bottom. And let me just say one more thing. In my school, what I do for brand new people, this is what I do to stop them from like being aggressive and muscling and then they get injured. I make everybody grapple with one hand in their belt. When you're a beginning student at my school,
so good.
You grapple with one hand in your belt and you don't get
so good.
They go, why am I doing this? Because you'll use your legs more. And you can't like bench press people off, and you got to sit and think. And I have you put your hand in your belt and grab your ties of your belt, the ends of your belt, and you have to grapple. Sometimes the higher belts, if you're in my beginning class, I'll make you put two hands in your belt and grapple, and then I'll let the brand new guy have both hands just to show them this is what jiu-jitsu looks like when you're an advanced student. I can grapple you with both hands in my belt and still do okay. And
I completely wrecked this right shoulder about a year ago and just taped it on and said, I'm going to go to class, see what happened. And I was shocked how actually it wasn't, I thought I would be useless, but it not only was I not useless, it was actually not, I was probably maybe 30% down. I mean, certainly you get problems, but I was shocked how it really wasn't actually that bad. And I think I learned more about the sort of George style of jiu-jitsu, which is like, if you ever roll with George, rolling with George is sort of like trying to give your cat a bath, It's just, he's never there. You're like, Jesus, get over here. Like, I won't roll with him, no-gi. I've in fact, you've seen, I like refuse to roll with him, no-gi, because I need to have something to hold on to just so that I can swing him around or something. But yeah, man, like, it's interesting that for me, again, I'm talking about me a lot, but that feeling of like, wow, this really isn't that different. Like the rule, everything is the same. It's where my hips are. It's who's got hips higher is going to end up on top. Do we need to be on top right now? Can we sub from where we are? Do we have to be? All that stuff came from this silly thing where I'm just duct taping my arm to my body because I really couldn't risk having it wrenched again, or it would never get better.
And my older students, the older, meaning the higher belts I'm constantly challenging them because I'm going to tell you, I'll tell you the worst thing in the school. The worst thing in the school is not getting submitted by everyone. The worst thing in the school is you're kicking everybody's ass and there's no challenge. All right. And when you get to a higher belt, that's what you're going to find brown belt. You're just kicking everybody's ass. And so I'm constantly challenging my students. Like I'll do this. If you come in and I'll make you tie both of your ankles together and grapple people. They get they get everything. You get both of your ankles tied together. Two hands in your belt. I'll tell them, awesome. You have to, higher belt, you have to tell that guy, you tell me what you're going to get him with. So if you're a purple belt, I go, okay, tell me what you're going to submit him with. I'm going to get him with a triangle. All right, we're not going to tell him. All right, boom, and you go try that. Pretty soon, as you get better, what I'm going to make you do is I'm going to make you tell your partner what you're going to submit him with. And those challenges happen. But how could I ever do that if winning were more important than the challenge of the win? You see what I'm saying? Like, Mr. Keith, I can't do that because I can't guarantee that I'm going to win this guy. So, right. Like, I don't care. I want you to get him with a triangle, and I want you to tell him. And you'd be surprised at how these guys get caught in a triangle after they get told that they're going to get put in a triangle. That's how you get better, and that's the challenge to push people more. But you can't do it if you're so scared about getting tapped or looking bad or your ego's on the line. just, everybody in your school, just give them the bird, man. Just say, no way, I'll do it. I'm going to do what I want to do. And I guarantee you, I promise, one day they will not be saying anything about your jiu-jitsu game. They will be like, whoa, you're a killer. Yeah, because you've challenged yourself so much. And it's fun to roll with you. And you don't use any muscle. And you're just doing it like nonchalantly. And I promise you can get there. I've seen black belts that are like that. It ain't happening at blue belt, and it ain't happening at purple belt, sorry. But it will, if you do it right, it will happen at black belt.
Right on.
I'd love to hear more about, you said the guy on the bottom is winning, something like that.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
The lucky guy.
Tell us more about that.
I always tell my students all the time, I go, the lucky guy is on the bottom, or the lucky gal is on the bottom, all right? And what I mean by that is it's real easy to do jiu-jitsu when you're on the top. If you're on the top, oh man, life's good, everything's awesome. Jiu-jitsu is so much fun. Yeah, be on the bottom side control, getting your lungs crushed, and tell me how much you enjoy jiu-jitsu, right? I'm telling you, that's when people decide to quit, is when they're getting crushed on the bottom. And not on the top. If you're on the top all the time, and I want to say, and now I'm deviating here, but when I first started jiu-jitsu, there was no jiu-jitsu in the United States. Well, there was jiu-jitsu, but you got it from the Gracie Academy, or you were over Henzo Gracie in New York, and maybe Carly Gracie, and that was it. Okay, so jiu-jitsu wasn't flourishing. I got the Gracie videos and started watching, and then I found Master Sauer. Okay, and I started training with Master Sauer. Well, up until about high blue belt, I really wasn't getting the concept of jiu-jitsu, because it was all about winning for me all the time. I just had to win, because my ability wasn't much higher than my students. Does that make sense to you? So it wasn't much higher than my students, and I had to keep in touch. So I had to win everybody. And Master Sauer would look at me and go, Keith, you need to be on the bottom more. And I'd be like, yeah, professor, yeah, on the bottom. Woo, no, I'm going to be on top. And if we would start on our knees, and I would slap and bump, and then I would push you over and try to get into your guard. Once I got into your guard, I would pass your guard, get side control on you. Then I would start attacking that Americana on the deal, because I didn't want to give you any space, because then that would start making you get away. I'm serious, that was my game for a long time. And then it dawned on me, what professor said, he said, hey, you need to be on the bottom. Well, I couldn't mount on top of somebody, because if I went for the arm bar and it failed, then they would be in my guard again. You see what I'm saying? And they would be in my guard, and then they might pass me, and now I'm on the bottom of this. And I couldn't handle that, because it just wasn't computing for me. And then I figured out, well, when am I going to get a good bottom game? Like, when will that happen? Is this going to be a brown belt that I decide to be on the bottom? So I just made up my mind at about blue belt, right before purple, that, hey, I'm going to be on the bottom, and I haven't quit since. So I'm on the bottom all the time. I love it when I'm in bottom side control. If you're on top of me in side control, I love it. I love the guard. You mount on top of me, totally love it. It's not a problem, because I'm really good at getting out of those places. And then what can you do to me? I can get out of back mount really easy, because I've been there 2,000 billion times. But you don't get that unless you're on the bottom. And that's why I say the lucky guy or lucky gal is on the bottom, because you're getting more training being on the bottom than that dude is being on the top. And Master Sauer, if I could go back to him, because he has such a big impact on my game, is he says that when you're on the bottom, your hips move better. You're able to move them and use them to feel and make your legs work. And so when you get on the top, that same movement will be there. But if you're never on the bottom and you're always on the top, you're going to have a lot of blocky hips, which just they clunk, they don't move. They're not supple and they don't move, right? And you see that a lot with wrestlers. Wrestlers, when you're watching wrestlers doing jiu-jitsu and they've done wrestling their whole life, they try to get on top, and then it's super blocky, just trying to keep you down there. And I'm not knocking that. I'm just going, hey, the lucky person is on the bottom, because you get so much. That investment on the bottom is so much more than it is just being on the top. I get bored being on the top. I'm a big dude. I get on top, you're going to have a hard time getting me away from you. But when I'm on the bottom, it's just love being there. I'm comfortable being uncomfortable now.
So, man, I got to tell you, this is funny, because we're in a period. I've been thinking about this for a couple of days, and I've got a lot of time to think, because there's no training. We're stuck, doing, And I'm like, all right, people are always talking about jujitsu helps you deal with life and all this stuff. And I was like, how is it how is it helping me deal with this thing right now, and whatever. And that's what I came up with. I was like, man, I'm so used to being uncomfortable that this is nothing, right? Like, yeah, we can't train, but like, look at all this other good stuff that like I can get out of it, and look at the positives. Like I get to hang, my daughter's home. We get to hang out with her. We get to do all this cool stuff that, that maybe we wouldn't do. And a lot of it is because I'm used to being miserable. From jujitsu, right? That I think that's the lesson, right? Is the misery is going to end at some point. Either you're going to escape and get out, you're going to get tapped and start over, or you're going to whatever. But the misery's there's going to be an end, and you'll be okay after it, And so that's what I've tried to think about that the last few days. Like, how can I apply this to my life?
Well, the mental game is super important in jiu-jitsu, and let me give you a couple examples. You're the brand new guy in class. What are you thinking when you're on the bottom there? You go, oh my God, I'm going to die. Everything's bad. This is the worst thing ever. This sucks. I don't like this. Like, I can't do anything to that guy. That's your mental attitude, right? But you see these purple belts, the brown belts, the black belts, they become solution oriented, right? Yeah, things suck. I got to get a solution to get myself out of this. Right. And when you focus on that with the solutions, especially where you're at, right, you focus on solutions now. Well, in your life, we're warriors, man. We're warriors, right? We deal with, it's not warriors like we go into battle to kill people, although we could hurt them. It's life struggles that we're a warrior against, right? And we use jujitsu for problem solving. And my God, this last couple of weeks, I've had to problem solve about my business. And right. I'm not thinking negatively. We are going to come through this, man. And that's the attitude. And if you'll just do that when you're grappling, I'm on the bottom. Like I said, I feel good on the bottom. I'm on the bottom going, I'm going to get out of this. This is not my positive self-talk is always, I'll be out of this in a second. And lo and behold, I'm out of it, right? I get what I think about all the time. And what you think about all the time is what you will get in your life. And if you're doing jiu-jitsu and you have stinking thinking, oh my God, I'm going to die. Oh, this is killing me. I don't have anywhere. The worst thing, I don't have anywhere to go. I don't know what to do. Well, why don't you make shit up? Okay. Why don't you figure it out and pull your pants up and start, coming up with solutions to get out of this. Sometimes the solutions suck. They do. All right. But you're learning a shitty solution did not work for you. That's called tapping. Right? It's just a shitty solution. It didn't work. It's not anything you need to go kill yourself over. It doesn't reflect you as a human being to get tapped. It just reflects that what you're doing at that moment wasn't the right answer to his question. His posing.
We have a mutual friend who used to say that you already, it's like the old, I forget the guy's name, the joke that you screwed up a long time ago. But the point is that you've already made a bunch of mistakes, and now you're going to pay with your comfort.
That's Kurt Osiander, the other rhino.
Right. I was trying to keep the anyway. Bottom line is, here we go. So Osiander is saying that, but we have a person friend who kind of pushed that another level, which was that now you're going to pay for this with your comfort, but you can pay for this with your comfort. It's comfort, right? Like you said. Of course, if I had to break this whole thing down, tell me what you think. Tell me if I'm way off on this one. If I had to break this entire thing down to a friend and say, what's this really like? I think you hit right at the spot, which is a black belt or a high-level jiu-jitsu person, somebody who's been training their whole life, someone who's dedicated themselves to it. They understand what's going on, and they don't make those mistakes.
Yes.
Because they can see the world around them. They can see the strategy. They can see the moment. They can see the opportunity. They can see the transition. When they go to X and Y, I'm going to totally steal that from you. I'm sorry. If it's okay with you, Keith, the con is on. That's a perfect way to put it. Yeah. See this? That's not what I want. Right. My favorite, the new one is letting I have a friend who I train with who's smaller than me. Loves the Russian. I'm like, oh, give me the Russian. Cool, because that other hand's coming over and you're going to get Tayatoshi now. So all that stuff, that's the endless part, right?
Right.
I mean, like, all of a sudden, my friend makes a little more sense. So it doesn't hurt as much to get beat up because I'm looking at George going, he's just seeing shit that I'm not seeing. He's seeing it the way I'm not seeing. And
Yes.
that is something that I can achieve. And if that doesn't map into my life, I'm a musician. You just took away everything I love. I can't play live. I can't record with people in the same room. I got to do what's called asynchronous recording. Me and I record something, I give it to you. That is as awesome as turn-based jujitsu. I will give you the arm lock. What will you do? Email me back. There's no satisfaction. It does not pull me out of my world. I have my demons. My demons are around me all the time. When I train, my demons are gone. When I play music, my demons are gone. You took all this away. I'm lucky that I still can teach. I teach music. But to me, it's the same thing over and over and over again. It's about, can you see what's happening in the moment? Am I crazy? Are you seeing a different version of this?
But that's one slice of it, right? You can see what's happening in the moment, but are you calm at the same time, right? You're not getting freaked out. Are you comfortable being uncomfortable, right?
Right.
And you can see it coming, right? And you have a positive mental attitude that I'm going to be able to get out of this and not be okay. If any one of those things you're having issues with, it's going to slow you down, man. It's like driving your car with one foot on the gas and one foot off the brake. It really doesn't work that well, right? I mean, driving down the road, I'm trying to, pedal to the metal and then the brake to the floor. It's going to slow you down. So you have to see it coming. Right. And you have to be calm while it's happening, and you have to have this positive attitude and all right. And people, even at the same time, they see I'm a blue belt and I'm grappling with a purple belt. They see a purple belt and they go, oh, I'm not supposed to win. Oh, I can't win. Oh, he's got his belt. I can't win. See, you're uncomfortable. And because uncomfortableness isn't exactly a feeling of physicality. It could be emotional uncomfortness, right? Or mental uncomfort. Right. And I get mentally uncomfortable. I don't ever get emotionally uncomfortable. I try, and the way I hold my body and position everything, I don't get physically uncomfortable. Okay. Right. So I'm working on the mental side of that. Okay. But you have to have those things in order to be able to be good at jujitsu. And it's not just about going and doing moves, man. It's about what's in your brain when you start out and the way you feel. Right. I hate to use the word feel, but there's just a feeling that right, I see it coming. I've got my defenses up. I'm positive that things are good. I'm not freaking out about what's going on right now. And white belts just freak out and they're like in the zone and they don't even know what's going on. It's because they're uncomfortable with what's going on. And so they have to super concentrate. And when you super concentrate so much, everything's in your body starts to tighten up, then your mind will start tightening up too. And so you're not in the places that you need to go. So those are the things that you need, I feel, to be good at jujitsu are those specific things. And it's really a lot of mental thought process, right? Everything's mental. But what we all try to do is, if I could just go faster, if I just went harder, if I just was stronger, right? And all those physical things. But I promise it's not, it's mental that you want to get. And that's why when you get older, you're using a lot more of your mental energy, your mental thought process, because you've seen it so many times. You're confident that you know what's going on. People will get a choke on me from the back, and I am again, like I said, I'm riding on that wave, right? I'm the surfer riding on the wave, and it's about to crash on me. That's got to be scary as hell, man, because I know, oh God, I'm about to get tapped out. I'm not worried about the tap. I just don't want to get tapped out, right? And so I'm like, oh crap, I'm deep in the well here. Am I going to make it? And suddenly I'm calm, and suddenly I get away. Holy crap. And I'm like, that's impressive that I got away from that. And if I had been any kind of tense or freaking out or not coming up with the idea of what to do, he would have caught me. And that's what you got to have. It's just a mental thought.
That is the shit that brings me back to this. When that happens, it's like playing golf. I'm terrible at golf. I don't really know how to play golf. I know a little bit about it.
Me too.
But every now and then you just dime it. It's just right. And you're like, okay, all right, I guess I'll keep doing this. And same thing, every now and then, everything works.
And why did it work? Because you probably weren't concentrating super. You're like, F this, I'm just going to hit this ball. And your body just does it perfectly because you're not stressed. It's not a world championship. It's a beautiful shot, right? Well, that's how I used to be a firearms instructor for a lot of years. And I'm telling you, hitting targets is nothing physical about shooting. It's all about mental concentration, focus, confidence, keeping your eye on that front sight, a lot of technical things as opposed to, big gross motor skills, right? There's a lot of gross motor skills, and then you got to be super technical to get that shot where you need to place it, okay? It's just like jiu-jitsu. You got to be calm when you're trying to hit the spots that you want to. And then when you do go for something, let's say I'm going for a submission, that's the time that you can use muscle on people, all right? That's the time when you have a move on. Then, and I'm not saying like viciously rip their arm off, but I'm going to hold it to me. You're not escaping, dude, and I'm going to do this. I'm putting this on you. My attitude is you will submit right now, okay? I'm not saying, hopefully I'm lucky if I get something right now, right? But at the same time, if you're 50 pounds heavier and you're just working me, I can't go on that offense, so I got to survive. And I got to be positive that I'm going to come out the other side of this looking good. That's how you get to be old and do jiu-jitsu.
Boom.
What do you think, George?
I love it, man.
George in front of us that know him really well. I mean, with all respect to the belt and all that, speaking as George's friend, George went through this weird sort of rebirth. And I think you met him right around the time it was happening, which is that George is a tiny person with a giant head. And his trick,
I noticed that.
Huge head, tiny body. He weighs like what? You're down to like 95 right now, right? So anyway, so his deal was he was running around the world, interviewing people, saying hi, making friends. The family's going with him. It's like his whole world is opening up. We went to Mexico. He's been all over these places. Then he got his black belt. And when he got his black belt, if you don't mind me talking about you for a second, George, yes, obviously, congratulations. But I'm going to keep talking about George, my friend.
Oh, of course, yeah.
When that happened, like something happened. Like I had to watch him do it. And I've been around martial arts for a long time, like I said, with the judo thing and all that. And you kind of see it in people, but it's weird watching your friend do it. Because number one, every single one of his black belt friends that were like, oh, little George is coming around to interview me. This is going to be great. We're going to podcast. They're like, oh, hey, let me welcome you to the world of being a black belt. And he got destroyed like on a regular basis. He'd come back to the club. He'd be like, oh, bro, like I roll with Kenny Florian. And he stole my soul. I'm going, yeah, I'm sure he did steal your soul, bro, because you leveled up. You entered the bar, and everybody was like, hey, you want a drink? Because here it comes, right? Like, we're going to introduce you to what this is like. But in the last, like, I don't know, like, it wasn't that long. It was probably like maybe 3 or 4 months before this whole COVID thing shut it down. You seem to be wearing it all of a sudden. Am I totally crazy, George? Are you feeling like, I'm sorry, that's making it sound like you need to boast. Not like, oh, yeah, I deserve the black belt. But, I mean, are you kind of getting through
now
that?
Now that you mention it, it's almost been a year to the day, like, that I got it. It's like sometime in April is when I got, like, right around this time. But, I mean, part of it, like, I mean, one, I got it around a bunch of, I mean, I hang out with people that I have respect for and that I don't want to let down either, like, the guy that was there, Marcio Stambowski, who to me is like a Pedro Sauer kind of guy, like legend. And he was there when I got it. And I was like, I'm around these people that are like heavy people that I don't want to let down. And but I don't want to be, I knew I didn't want to be like the guy and not to, disrespect anybody, but I don't want to be the guy that stopped rolling once I get my black belt with people that are good. I want to roll with the dudes that are good. But I did feel like I entered a new club that I was like, I opened the door and I entered the club, and there's Marcelo Garcia in the club that I'm in, and there's Pedro Sauer, and there's all these legendary black belts, and we're all in the same club. But I'm like, man, I just got here. Like, I'm now the new guy in the club. So I felt, and then I competed at like a couple weeks after I got it, and it was, it was an interesting experience. It was good, but I got welcomed.
You won one. Stop it. You won your first one.
No, I did not. I did not. I lost the decision.
That was sorry, I'm throwing a little shade here. There might have been a little Brazilian referee thing going on there. You won that one, but go on.
So, yeah, what a year, man. It's been like crazy, what a crazy growing into being a black belt, I guess. But I don't even remember what your question was.
It's not, but Keith, you can hear it in his voice, right? I mean, I'm here for my friend. What does this sound like? Is this okay?
Well, George is definitely crazy. All right. I don't know what else to say. I mean, it's obvious. Look at it. Okay. So, and he is your friend. So that says something about you, right?
I'm not.
What I just glad George. Let's pick on George just for a second, since we're all sitting here and might as well pick on him, right? At least it's George's duty now as a black belt to be able to hang with people that are 50, 60 pounds heavier than him. He has no choice. Everybody's bigger. He's got to do the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu style of martial arts. Because, I mean, if they're in your weight class, fantastic. I just don't want you to walk around this earth, George, going, man, I can kick anybody's ass in my weight class.
As long as they're featherweight,
as long as they're featherweight, I'll kick their ass. Nobody else. I can't win anybody else, but just in my weight class. And that is not how life is, right? You get picked on by people or someone starts a fight with you, they're most likely going to be out of your weight class, right? And your job now is to get better over a larger weight class. And I'm telling you, small guys can do it, man. Jiu-jitsu is made for small guys. It makes me a little jealous. I'm a big dude, right? So it's like I can let things happen. Little guys are forced into things. You're forced to be on the bottom. Well, right? And being forced on the bottom makes you better on the bottom, because that's where you're spending your time, I'm going to assume, right? So if I were going to grapple with you, Mr. 230 pounds that I am, and I'm grappling with you, is it much fun for me to be on top? Well, maybe I should spin it around and let you be on top, because you don't spend a lot of time there, because I want to be on the bottom, right? And I want to work that, right? So when your goal is to be able, when you're grappling with somebody, if they're 50 pounds heavier, that you're able to sweep them and do whatever and end up on top and still stay on top, right? Once you're on, right? Because the big guys, they'll throw you off, right? Well, if you do everything technically correct and have your body in the right place, grabbing on in the right way, you will have success. And that should be your goal for the future. Not just, well, I'm really good at guys my weight class. Fantastic. That's awesome, man. So you better not mouth off to anybody bigger.
Right.
Don't mouth off to anybody bigger, because they'll kick the crap out of you, and you don't want that. That's not why we designed jiu-jitsu. It's a little man's self-defense martial art that they can use on a bigger man. And I have seen it work. Man, I'll tell you, the worst people to grapple with are the small guys, because they can dig down in and be in places that, man, it's where big guys, I can't fit in myself. So, and congratulations on your black belt, by the way.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. But it is like a new, when I got it, I felt like it was like I was starting over almost, like, oh, hey, here you are, here it is.
And see, that's a mental thing. No offense. All right. It's a mental thing in your mind going, wow, I'm a black belt, right? And, oh, I don't feel like a black belt. Man, you got the black belt. Be a black belt, right? And the sooner you act like, hey, I'm a black belt, right? Because you didn't get it because of your good looks, bro. I'm just telling you, okay?
Geez, really?
Okay, right? All right. That's
gotta be
just messed up.
A little over the line there.
Right? I told you I was going to wreck my career.
He looks just like little mini Chael Sonnen, right?
Yes, he does. He does. But he got it because he's good at jiu-jitsu. His instructor just didn't like, oh, I feel sorry for you, George. I'll give you your black belt now. No, he honestly believed that you're a black belt, and you should. I mean, if you just change your mind like that and the thought process that you have, I mean, that's great. Not saying that you had a problem, but
I did. I 100% I did.
Yeah.
And it took a little bit, I feel like, for me to feel comfortable with it, but I did have that. I was like, when we got it, I was in Mexico, and I was like, oh, I was weird for a little bit. It was a surprise.
And that's the emotional discomfort of jiu-jitsu right there. You're emotionally going, wow, I feel like I'm right. And those are the things that you got to be able to get in line, right? You're emotional. Like you get thrown into this, you go to a tournament, right? And you're brand new and you're thrown into it, man. You need to get your mind right. Hey, I deserve to be here. I'm going to go get this guy. Right. And when you change I hate to be like that, like this, when you change your thought process, you will change your life. Well, it really is true. What you think about is how you'll act. That's what all of my years have shown me, is that what your thought process is. If you want to be a millionaire, think like a millionaire, right? You want to be a black belt in jiu-jitsu, you need to think like you're on the road to being a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and what would a black belt think? And you will have great success. The worst thing is, oh, I don't deserve this. I don't feel like I should be doing this. Oh, I better have respect for Kenny Florian right now, because he's Kenny Florian, and nothing against Kenny Florian. He's awesome. I understand why he submitted you, but at the same time, in your mind, you need to go like, Professor Sauer has told me to go grapple people. Okay, hey Keith, go grapple that guy. Okay, I've never gone, oh Professor, I don't want to do. It's like, yes sir, boom, I'm going to go get you, right? And that's always been my attitude when I grapple. It's like I'm going to win this. That is how it's going to start out. Have I always won? No, no, I got tapped a lot, but my attitude is always that, and that's what's helped me to succeed. If I could get deep into the psychological weeds of that, so.
It's great to not be the best in the room too, like you were saying earlier.
Yes.
I've always been lucky to have dudes like whatever, Kenny Florian and all these guys around me that can put a good beating on me. But because that's where I've learned the most, is grappling with people that are better, for sure.
Yes. And thank God you have better people, like I said, because nothing's worse than being the top dog in the room.
Not only that, even seeking out the people who are better. Yeah. You're not, he's seeking out the better people to make him better as well.
Yes. And let me say this too. I totally agree with what you're saying. The inverse of that too is good. Seeking out people who are lesser than you is good as well. Because people, like, you'll see purple belts, they always want to train with the brown and black belts all the time, right? And John Danaher made a point of this the other day, and I hope I can recall what he said. I hope I don't wreck it. But he was saying, when you're a purple belt going against brown and black belts, how are you supposed to get better other than the defense? It's going to be hard to launch offense on these guys. Where you go and learn offense is on the lower side, right? If you're a purple belt, you go and tune up all the blue belts to work on your moves, right? When that's not a lot of pressure. So, and that's cool, but if all you had was that and nobody to push you on this side, you're not going to be a complete fighter. So, man, you want to always, when I'm teaching people, I'm always teaching them to beat me. Okay, that if you took a private lesson from me, I'm teaching you how to beat me. When I'm grappling, I might defend something and get out, and then I'll stop and go, hey, do that again. You got to do it this way. So that next time it'll be a lot harder on me, right? And so when we're practicing that, what happens is I get better too, right? My students get better and I get better, and we're constantly pushing each other. But you have to be able to work both sides of the equation, right? You got to be able to grapple with the lower belts, and you need to be able to grapple with the bigger belts. But if you're a middle range guy going, oh, I always have to be with the brown and black belts, but you're just rolling with them and not learning from them, like they're not getting, if you want some good lessons, yeah, go find the black belt and ask him to teach you. But if it's constantly grappling with them, well, your defense will get better, your offense won't. So it's a two-way street, right? We want those good guys, the super awesome guys, but we also want the lower dudes, so we can tune them up and work on our offense. And that's what John Danaher said, and it made me go, oh, that makes perfect sense, giving him the credit for that.
What do you think about like having particular training partners? Like, I think pretty much most people will say, "Oh shit, that's my friend." Like, it's great, Or when are you training on Thursday? I'll come in on Thursday too. You have your favorite training partners. Because I'm a little older, because I'm in this situation where I am one of those middle people, I try to schedule out the week when we have a full week to go, like, whatever, this is hard day, this day I'm going tough, this is the day I'm going to basically roll with anybody. I'm never going to turn on roll anyway, so let's just get that out of the way. So I'm going to get those times that I'm just going to get my ass handed to me. But I do have a couple of training partners who I'm lucky that are younger than me, that are stronger than me, but they're not as skilled. Both of them are cops. A couple of them are cops. And so they want to train all the time just to make themselves better. And it's cool because they have like a lot more on the line than I do. Yeah. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, rolling long with those guys is more, there's a lot more learning going on for me because I'm going, that's not how you do that. I try it this way. That's not how you do it. This is the way you do it. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you know, I was lucky to have, both George and I were lucky to have a really good, a really just excellent judo instructor. This old guy who didn't compete much himself, but it was just a phenomenal instructor. And I remember one time being down in Boston, and we had all gone on to this seminar, and some of the guys down in Boston are Jimmy Pedro's guys, and I'm like, I would never train with those guys. And we're just looking at the coach, and him just looking at me go, you should train with him, just like you said. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, this guy's getting ready for the Olympics. What's wrong with you, right? And he goes, you should train with him. And I trained with him. I didn't die. And I went back to him and I said, I am never going to turn down a roll. In that case, it was Randori, ever again. And I don't know if it's a smart idea or not, but I'm stuck with it. And again, do you think that are we speaking the same language here?
Yeah, I like what you said about I do on this day. I might do this. I might do that. I do that too. Like a couple days a week. If I try to grapple 4 days a week, right, minimum. I'll go 5. I'll go 6. That's tough, especially when I'm teaching and stuff like that. But I'll try to go 4 days a week if I can. 2 of those days I'm totally defensive because I'm freaking tired because I've been teaching kids classes or whatever. I'll still roll.
It feels really. I'm sorry to interrupt, but it feels really good to hear you say that. Yeah, because there are times where I'm going in and I'm going, today I am beat. I'm just whatever. I'm just going to let this happen. I'd rather be here than not be here.
Yes.
By the way, I'm asking on behalf of all the people listening as well. We have a relatively wide base of people, from young people to old people that listen. So please, I'm sorry, I don't mean to turn into a personal lesson here. So I interrupted you. You were saying like you go 4 days a week, and they're not all the same.
I'll go too light. It just depends, and then I'll go for specific things. I'll work a specific position, one of those. So I'll just work on my guard, and I just constantly getting people in the guard. And then maybe one day, maybe not. One day you get full rhino. I'm going to kill you. I'm tapping everybody out as fast as I can. I'm not being nice. I'm being safe, just not being nice. Your self-esteem is going to take a little beating on this. And then I'm going to tune you up because I can't go 100 miles an hour through the desert for 100 miles in 100-degree weather continuously every day, right? And people always try to do that. I'm going to tap you as fast as I can. And that's what's going to get you injured. We're just trying not to get injured. I go to the school. I'm going to tell you this. In my thought process, when I'm grappling, right before I start grappling, I think about getting injured. I think this could be the time I get injured. And then in my mind, it plants a seed to be extra careful not to get hurt. Because if I get hurt and I'm out 3 months, 6 months, that sucks, my friend, to be like not being able to do jiu-jitsu for 6 months because you got to have shoulder surgery or something. So I'm at my age now, and at your age too, we're just trying not to get hurt, man. That's what we're trying to do. But at the same time, you can't be so cautious that you don't go on the attack too. So I think varying it up is a good idea. And what you do, you need to have goals. Okay, today I'm triangling everybody. I need to work on my omoplata. My omoplata is sucking. So I'm going to start trying to omoplata everybody, right? That's what you should have in one of your classes, right? But if you're so focused on winning all the time, when do you get to do that? When are you going to practice that? When are you going to take a turn on your shitty omoplata that you're trying to get it better? When are you going to take chances on that? Because he can counter it and do something, knee bar you or do something to you. That's why you can't worry about that. And I'm speaking, might as well speak Egyptian to people because they're like, oh no, I couldn't do that. I gotta win. Or they go, yeah, they give you lip service on that. I know what you're talking about. And then what happens is they go back to class and they go full bore every single grapple. And they're not working on their specific things that they need to do to get better. I mean, that's what you do with a fighter in MMA, wouldn't it? You work on stuff, you break it down.
What you're saying, though, I mean, sorry, I'm going to be a little fanboy here about it, but this is not coming from nobody. This is coming from you.
It's coming from Pedro Sauer.
Well, no, I understand, and I appreciate that, and I understand that. What I'm saying is coming from you, and I don't think that what you say is completely lost on everybody listening. I think it is sinking in. Sometimes people need to hear someone in a respected position say something they've heard 1,000 times. Maybe that's something else we can call out in common with all of us, which is how many times has, like, my guy Jay said, oh, you just got to get your hips higher or whatever. And you're like, yeah. Then like 2 years later, I'm like, oh, right, hips higher. Oh, you should have told me that because I would have put my hips higher, right? Maybe this is the time. Maybe this is someone listening that's going, okay, what you're saying is that I can tap, that I don't have to go all the time? I mean, this is one of the reasons why we do this podcast, why I put the time in and set George up, and why George puts the time in. The conversations are really important, man.
If I can do a shameless plug real quick, I've had a book out for about a year now. It's called From the Ground Up, and available on Amazon, by the way. And it explains a lot of what I'm saying to you right now. So people, if this is sparking something in you, you should read my book. And it was designed for brand new people going into a school that's all about winning and losing, right? It's designed so that you can understand the physical complexities of it, the emotional complexities of it, the mental. And I have a chapter, or I have a section on each of these. And then I also have a political aspect of the school as well, right? So you're getting 4 different aspects that you should be looking at when you're in the school. Because if you don't watch out for the political aspect of jiu-jitsu, and I'm not trying to change the subject, that could come back and bite you in the butt right there, right?
You should explain what that means so people don't misunderstand.
Yeah, well, the political aspect is there's a pecking order, right, of the school. Right. And if you break that pecking order, so to speak, you could get ostracized, or people don't like you, or you don't get promoted, or people stop helping you, or people don't want to roll with you and they start ducking you, and just different things, what the instructor's thinking. I mean, stuff like, hey, quit asking for your new belt all the time. Hey, can I get promoted today? Is today the day? Can I get promoted? Right? Look how close I am. Can I get promoted today? Is that all right? Can I do that? See, politically, it's a bad idea, right? And I explain those things. So as a shameless plug, if you're interested in what I'm saying, like the philosophical ideas of jiu-jitsu, because there's a whole philosophy that should be taken in. It's not just a physical thing we're doing. It's philosophical and understand the concepts of jiu-jitsu, because when you understand the concepts, you're able to defend better, you're able to attack better, you won't get hurt as much. And people don't even understand it. I hate to say, oh, I understand it, and everybody else doesn't. But man, when you come from a lineage of Pedro Sauer, Rickson Gracie, Helio Gracie, the closer you are to the spring of knowledge, the clearer the water is, right? The farther away you get it, the murkier the water becomes. Well, I'm super close to it and listen to these guys for 28 years about how to do jiu-jitsu. My seminars are weird too, I want to tell you, because I'll go in and I'll show stuff to make it a lot easier, and it's blowing people's minds like, no, this shouldn't be working like this. This isn't the way my instructor taught this. And it's like, yes, this is the way to do it so that you can invest your money, whatever that, your energy, and get a lot back in return, right? And people just blows their mind. But there's a level of jiu-jitsu out there, especially Pedro Sauer jiu-jitsu, if I can say it, the invisible jiu-jitsu, if you've heard of that, right? That just blows people's mind. And when you, and that's what my book discusses too, is just how you should do in your jiu-jitsu, because my goal is to get you from white to black. If I could just get one person from white to black, my life will be, my life will have meaning to it. All right. Now I promoted a lot of black belts now, but if I could just mini white belts to black belts as I can and spread jiu-jitsu all across the world, my life will be complete. And it's really hard to do it when I'm in quarantine.
Right. Well, it's a great time to buy the book, because you got time to.
I tell you, Carlos Machado, if I can say this, just recently contacted me and told me how much he liked my book. And I went, oh, absolutely. And and emotionally in my mind, I went, oh my God, Carlos Machado, is he supposed to be like? I go, stop. Stop with that. That's your attitude
Right.
of you don't deserve to have Carlos Machado read your book and like it. Yes, because what I'm saying is it reverberated with him. He's like, yes, this is the way. All right.
Why
if
did
you're
you?
a Mandalorian, this is the way. Right. And so
Why did
that's,
why did you write why did you write the book in the first place? Why did you?
sure as hell wasn't to make money. I'm serious because
Okay.
there's not a lot of money in publishing videos and stuff like that. I mean, on the bigger, super huge names like the John Danahers of the world, yeah, there's money there. But for most of us, it's about love of doing jiu-jitsu, right? I make way more money in my school than ever publishing anything. But there's a lot of people that are in Kansas and Nebraska that don't. And I'm not downplaying those guys, but they might not have the level of jiu-jitsu. There might not be any jiu-jitsu schools, right? There's nothing around. Well, and maybe they're doing some Gracie online or something. Well, I'm trying to help them to understand the concepts of jiu-jitsu because I cannot let Pedro Sauer, Elio Gracie jiu-jitsu die with those two guys. I have to go. They've been kind enough to teach me this, and this is the way to do jiu-jitsu, and I need to go spread that to other people so that we keep them from white to black. Because you know as well as I do, what do you think? 80-90% of the people quit jiu-jitsu without getting a black belt. And I don't care. I'm going to tell you this. You have to be a black belt to get a black belt. You have to be able to grapple as a black belt to get your black belt. It takes time, and I am not ever going to go, oh, yeah, well, yeah, he put in his time. He sucks, but we'll give him his black belt. You do not get a black belt from me that way. But the way you start is of no importance to me. Okay, I don't have to have you winning all the time. I'm not interested. If you want to hold back on your grappling, it's okay. But as long as you build yourself up into that, where at the finish line, you're able to grapple as a black belt. Well, that's what my book is all about, how to handle that and at least stay in some of these really shitty schools, to be honest. I mean, there's some schools that are, man, they just...
Of course there are. Of
fed
course
to
there
the
are.
lions, and it sucks. Somebody wants to do jiu-jitsu and they go into a school and literally get fed to the lions. They get beat up. They don't learn anything right on their first day. And they go, you know what? This sucks. This isn't for me. And that dude or dudette could have been a black belt. I can't have that. And so that's why
Go ahead.
That's why I did my book, man. It's to help people to get better. Cause that's all it is. I'm going to die one day. It's not how much money I have. I mean, I can't take that with me, but I can at least keep on going with Pedro Sauer Jiu-Jitsu and spreading it to the world, because Professor Sauer, these ideas of using good technique and body alignment and all of these things, he's given to me. And that's the way, man. That's the way to do jiu-jitsu, to become a master of jiu-jitsu. And that's what we're trying to spread. It's not how tough you are. It's not how that you can tap everybody, because you're not going to be able to tap everybody in the world. It's okay. You can't just be tapping people to gain an ego boost. Because I'm telling you, you're going to get your ego ripped out, everybody. It's going to get ripped out of you. And if you see what black belts are the kindest, nicest people, because they just had the shit kicked out of them. All right. But it's made them a better person. And so that's my goal, is to get you, sorry to be so long-winded on that, but that's my goal, is to get you to be a black belt one day. And the more people I can do that before I die, the happier I'm going to be.
No,
it's sure as hell not about money.
It's perfect, man, because I was fortunate enough to be in the room with you guys together, right? For an hour. And I got to experience, like, you guys Pedro talking about stories like of being in Rio with Elio and Hickson, as teenagers, and I've been around Pedro Sauer for 6 hours or something, and it had an effect on me,
Mm-hmm.
So for you to have spent the time with him that you have, there maybe is a responsibility to you that you have to pass that on. Yes,
there is a responsibility. And it's all Pedro Sauer black belts. It's their responsibility to pass it on. I mean, what kind of person just gets a black belt and quits at jiu-jitsu? What in the hell is that? Like, why did you even bother? Because, again, you start to learn at black belt. You got to stay, right? And you got to stay and spread it. And when we teach jiu-jitsu to everybody, imagine a world where everybody knew jiu-jitsu. How would that be? Sure as hell wouldn't be as aggressive as it is, right? Because you've already know what a broken arm is going to feel like, right? You know what getting choked out is going to feel like. So everybody's going to be a lot more kinder, right? Their self-esteem is going to go up. They're not going to need to fight.
And more honest.
And more honest.
More honest.
Yeah.
More truthful,
be a better
more
world
understanding that there's a place for this and there's not a place for this. And sometimes me shooting my mouth off means I'm going to get paid back, you know.
And only good people, I got to tell you, most of the time I feel only good people do jiu-jitsu, because when you're good and your self-esteem is good, you're able to handle the loss. You're able to compartmentalize getting tapped out. If your ego is so big and you're like, you can't handle the loss, you're going to quit, right? It just weeds you out automatically. My goal is to get that person, the kind person, to be able to get through to his black belt and not get injured, not get hurt, be able to be 70 years old and do jiu-jitsu.
Wow. Perfect.
Right.
Cool. Yep.
When you first started jiu-jitsu, you had already trained martial arts, but what was your goals? You probably didn't have that goal when you first started.
To train jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, like when you first started, what were your goals as to why you started training jiu-jitsu?
Man, I tell you, when I was like 23, 24, every young man and every young woman thinks, what the hell am I going to do with my life? You know, I'm sitting here going, what do I want to do with my life? Like, you know, I look like an attorney probably. I could have been an attorney or something like that. I was selling TV advertising too, and I was doing really well. I was selling a lot, and I always liked selling because it was just me going out and visiting my friends. That's all my thought process was. Again, my thought process was, I'm not going to go visit clients or anything. I'm just going out and visit my friends, and we're going to talk, and then I'm going to talk to them about advertising. And I made a pretty decent living on that. But, you know, there's got to be something in the human soul. You know, there's something in the human soul, I mean to say, that wants to give back to society. You want to have a life worth living. At least for me, it was. And I had to decide, what do I want to do with my life? And I decided I wanted to be a martial arts instructor because I love the self-defense aspect of it and teach people to defend themselves, and not so much to change their life. And you know, and I'm not a life coach or anything like that, but just to teach people to defend themselves. And I already had a black belt in Kung Fu, so that was really cool. And then I discovered jiu-jitsu. Holy crud, man! I discovered this, and I went. I loved pro wrestling when I was younger. And so I was like, oh man, I want to do jiu-jitsu because they're submitting people and doing everything that I like. And then it gets to be addictive. And I know that I can change the world through jiu-jitsu. I mean, I can. And it's one student at a time, and might even sometimes be locally. But if I can nationally help people to understand how to do jiu-jitsu the right way, and I'm not saying I have all the answers or anything like that, but there is a technique to jiu-jitsu that I'm going to tell you this. Those guys who are super athletic competitor guys, I'm telling you this. They're going to be 50, 60 years old, and then their tune is going to change. They're going to go, oh, no, technique is what you need. The better because if they're going to stick with it, they have to do technique. You can't keep on the road you were doing competitively like this. It's just not going to work. And they'll start talking, we have to have technique is all that matters. And you're going to start hearing that from these guys. And it's like, you got to hear first, man. It's the technique that will carry you through. And if you don't go technique, I don't understand what you mean technique, then you don't understand. All right. If you can kind of comprehend the proper body alignment and the way you put your hands in and the way you defend yourself so that he can't get you, first of all, I mean, that's the technique of it. How you get somebody's arm behind their back when they're actively resisting and you're not having to like put every single ounce of strength into it. That's the technique of jiu-jitsu. And it's there if you'll do it right. And they're little shortcuts. And I promise you, jiu-jitsu is not fair. If you understand the technique, people are like, man, I got nothing here. Yeah, because I'm using all these shortcuts that you've never learned. You're doing it the hard way. Two people just going like this. And that's not jiu-jitsu. That's, I don't know, combat grappling or something like that. You know, it's not at least the Elio Gracie, Pedro Sauer, Hickson Gracie jiu-jitsu. It's the invisible jiu-jitsu, I guess. And they call it invisible is because people don't want to, everybody wants to win. They don't want to think about getting better. And when you get better, you're going to win one day, right? It's about developing yourself into a good jiu-jitsu person. And that starts by being on the bottom.
Because you're lucky on the bottom.
Because you're the lucky one is on the bottom, man. And my students get pissed at me too when I fall down. I'll just slap bump, fall down. And they're like, I wanted to be on the bottom. That's what they say to me. Go, oh, too bad. I'm the professor. I get to be on the bottom. Like, right? But you hear it somewhat, like, why do you always want to be on top? Dude, you be on top all the time then. You will start, totally, I don't care. You're a black belt. Be on top all the time if that's what you want, because I want to work my way. I want to submit you from the bottom and work my way out at the bottom all the time. And I'm totally comfortable, emotionally, physically, and mentally comfortable with being on the bottom. And it's not hell at all. It's kind of weird, really. It's like I'm getting beat up on and I like it.
That right now it's a thing. I miss people trying to strangle me. Mm-hmm. Like, I miss that. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But didn't you tell me last time we talked that, like, you started jiu-jitsu and it was like some random dude came up and started talking to you in a TV store or something?
Yeah. Well, I was a TV ad salesman, so I was selling TV ads. Great job. It was fun. I had to take a video, and back then it was a VHS copy, of video. Yeah. It wasn't a disc or anything like that, or a little scan drive or anything. It was like you take the VHS copy. So that was 1970. No, I'm just kidding. It's a long time ago. And so I'm taking it in, but I was given this tape. These people weren't my client, is what I'm saying. I was just delivering this tape to these people, right? I hardly knew them. Walk in. Is it called Mel Qualities Electronics, Twin Falls, Idaho? I walk in, Mel, and I go, I'm looking for Mel. Mel'll be here in a second. So the dude who just said that to me, I'm talking to him, and I'm standing there, all right? And before, just a little back up here, I was already in the martial arts. I was teaching martial arts on the side. I had read Black Belt magazine, and they had the Gracies in there, and the Gracies were choking. I mean, I just remember Hoyler Gracie, right? And I don't think I'd seen the UFCs yet or anything like that, okay? And so he looks at me, this dude, I'm telling you, this is the weirdest thing, and when you're ready for something, it will make its appearance, all right? I truly believe that. So I'm standing there, and he looks at me, this dude, young guy, 20, my age, 23, 24, something like that, looks at me and goes, hey, have you ever heard of the Gracies? Like, out of the blue, like, I mean, who's going to do that? Some guy walks up to you, George, in the grocery store, and go, hey, dude, have you heard of the Gracies? Right? And you're like, where the hell did this come from? And I go, yeah, dude, I've heard of the Gracies. He goes, hey, and he turns his head, right? He goes, hey, I got this videotape of them fighting. You want to check it out? And I went, oh, hell yeah. I want to see that. Cool. Yeah. Because I heard about this Gracie Challenge thing, but I didn't know, right? I'm just reading about it. So it is an electronics store. So he takes the tape with we put it in, right? And we start watching, and these Gracies are beating they're, excuse my language, they're beating the shit out of everybody, right? And I'm like, and it's on, I'm starting to go, I want to do this. I really want to do this. Yes, this is my calling. This is what I'm supposed to do. And I'm right. And so I tell, and his name is Dean Heileman, this guy, right? And I go, hey man, if I can find a place to train, will you train jiu-jitsu too? Yeah, I'll train jiu-jitsu too. And that's how we became friends, right? And so there was very little jiu-jitsu in the world, but I found Pedro Sauer. And I've gotten every belt from Master Sauer. And Dean kept training with me too. And we would drive to Salt Lake, and we'd stay there a good long time. We'd train all the time. And Dean got his black belt in jiu-jitsu. And right after Dean got his black belt, he died of cancer. He had cancer all the way, a brown belt all the way to black belt. And he was suffering greatly, but he still grappled. What's your excuse, man? You know what I'm saying? He was always... he was in chemotherapy, lost his hair, and he was still grappling, right? And it's not like, oh, we're taking it easy on you, Dean. Oh, no, Dean, we're trying to kick your ass, dude. And he was hanging in there, right? And he became a black belt. And then several months after that, he died. And that's really my story. But I couldn't believe that I might not have done anything, or it might have been later that I picked it up or something like that. But we started watching Royce Gracie on the UFC, right? And beating everybody, right? We decided to buy those. And we watched Royce Gracie, and he was beating up on dudes that were bigger than he was. And I'm going, this is the way, man. This is what we want to do. And I remember getting my black belt. The day I got my black belt, I thought, holy shit, I'm a black belt just like Royce Gracie is. And I'm like, wow. And to make a long story even longer, 10 years ago, I'm talking to this dude, and this dude goes, he's a friend of mine, and I didn't know this about him, but I'm talking to him, and he was like a purple belt or a brown belt at the time, and he goes, hey, I have Hoist Gracie's gi from UFC 2. I have his gi and his belt. I go, what? And Hoist Gracie had donated it to his father, who had a restaurant, and they were putting up sports memorabilia, right? And Hoist was like kind enough to give him that gi and then the black belt that he wore in Ultimate Fighting 2, right? And I go, oh, hell yeah, I want to see it. So I remember watching UFC 2, and now the dude brings out this belt, and I'm looking at it, and I go, can I put it on? I put it on, dude. And I put on Hoist Gracie's belt that he wore, that I was watching, that made me want to go to jiu-jitsu. You know, and it's like, oh, I was freaking out. So I'm going, oh, I was fanboying. I was like, I can't believe this, right? And so it's a cool story. The world works in mysterious ways. And again, when you're ready for something, it'll make its appearance, man. When you're ready, it will happen, right? You just got to think positively.
Dude, that's insane. I mean, to think just that meeting with that guy 30 years later, whatever it is now, where you're at, like, what was his name? Dean what?
Dean Heilemann was his name.
Heilemann, man.
Yep, got his black belt, and you know, I'm just thankful that he got his black belt before he died. I mean, I didn't want him to die, but you know,
right.
We all. One thing about life is none of us are getting out of here alive. So you got to die sometime, and die a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
For sure, absolutely.
It's a better way to go.
Like, hey, you want to see some Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, man? Come over here in the corner. I got some of that Gracie Jiu-Jitsu.
I just hope they have training wherever I go. You know, I want to keep training, man. Maybe I get reincarnated as somebody, you know?
Yeah.
Keep going.
Oh, man.
Maybe I'll haunt the school.
We could be someone's angel. How about that?
Yeah, that's right. And I want to be somebody's angel right now, and that's why I preach jiu-jitsu and I talk jiu-jitsu and I talk technique, because I love that analogy. I want to be the angel that's going to get you from white belt to black belt and not get you hurt, so that you can pass it on, and you know, and it's going to go down, you know, centuries, right? We want to carry this on centuries. Jiu-jitsu almost died out back in the early 1900s. I mean, really. It really almost died out. Judo became very popular, and jiu-jitsu was taking a back seat to it. It could have been totally like wiped out and gone. And you know, luckily the Gracies brought it back too. So, and again, back in the day, there was a pandemic back in 1918, and we seem to have still kept wrestling and jiu-jitsu. So I look at that, and I'm serious about that. That pandemic killed, you know, what is it? Millions and millions of people. But yet we still kept on grappling, and we still kept on doing those things. So I'm hoping that remains the same way.
Oh, it will.
Well, I mean, this is going to pass. We have the, you know, when I was born, there were no computers. So, I mean, we're going to get this. We'll get this one. But, yeah, it's tough now. It is really tough. It's legit tough. Like, I think, well, a lot of us, like you say, you have kind of a warrior mindset. So you're like, all right, I'm not going to be training for a little while. We're going to be fine, right? It's all good. So here we are, like a couple weeks in, maybe 3 or 4 weeks in now. You're like, this is really happening, right? Like, you know, we can be warrior all day, but we're still not training. And at some point,
I'm a warrior
this
on the
starts to get,
That's right.
it's rough. It's really tough to not train.
But the cool part, like one of the cool things, like about kind of like what you're saying with Dean, and now even like, you know, in my case, I didn't really intend on starting a podcast ever in my life, but the Riddler said something to me one day. I was like, yeah, I'll do it, you know, whatever. And then the next thing you know, like I just had this, for whatever reason, I asked Rob McGow, who I didn't know that well at the time, like, hey, you know, we're thinking about coming to Pedro Sauer seminar. Do you think you could ask him if he'd do a podcast? And he says yes. And I show up and I meet you and I talk to Pedro Sauer and I make friends with Rob McGow, who's an amazing human as well. And yes, here we are 3-4 years later in the midst of this quarantine, all four of us talking about jiu-jitsu, you know, getting through this thing. It's amazing.
Yes.
Real recognizes real, George. I mean, you guys don't know a lot about me, but I've been very lucky to work with some pretty amazing people in my life in a different world than this. And in jiu-jitsu, I'm just this little fish swimming around doing my thing. But there's a reason why you're doing the podcast. There's a reason why someone like me is looking at you going, I don't make any money on this thing, you know? I mean, it's like this is a lot of work, right? But So if I can pick up on what Keith was saying, why can't it be you?
Why
Like,
can't it?
are you going like, oh, no, I don't deserve all this? Maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe the reason why Rob said yeah is because real recognizes real, you know? And maybe that's why all this stuff is happening. It's not all magical. It's because we're trying hard, working hard, and trying
And
to
we
make
love
these
it.
things happen.
Let me say this. You can do anything you want in life if you'll just mentally just say, I'm going to go do this. I mean, when you have that attitude, right, and you have the why, if you want to change people's lives, the worst thing in the world is to go, oh, I don't deserve this. I can't do this. I look and I see that all the time. And I'm sorry, I don't have a lot of respect for that because we only have one life. I mean, if you're going to be dying on your deathbed looking back and you're going to go, it's not what you did do, it's what you didn't do that's going to affect you so much right at the end of your life. It's like, oh, I wish I'd have done this, gotten my bucket list going or doing these things. Life is about, this is what I tell people. I go, life is about getting up, kicking ass, and then dying. All right? It's going to be like that, right? But you're going to kick ass, do what you want to do, help. And the more people that you help in life, literally, if you want to have a happy life, the more people that you help, and I help people through jiu-jitsu, the more you're going to feel good about you and your life and what you have. And what you're doing this podcast, you're helping lots of people to learn how to do jiu-jitsu better. That's why I'm on the podcast. I want to teach people to do jiu-jitsu better. And you're giving people an outlet. And that's the positive thing. I just wish people would go out and kick ass and just do what they want to do and achieve what they want to achieve. But they won't. And it's okay. Okay, it's all right. Because we need people in life to say, would you like fries with that? Right? And I mean, there have to be people that do that. I got it. All right. And if you want to be that person, if you want to be the person that goes, hey, would you like to upsize that? Would you like to make that a large or a medium? That you certainly can do that. Nothing wrong with that. But if that's not your calling and you're not digging that, it's a sad life, man. It's a sad life. And I, people bring up the deal. Well, I have kids now. I have responsibilities. No, man, you go pick up the things you want to do. If you want to do jiu-jitsu, then get with it, right? You can. You want to play guitar, go play guitar. You should. And those are the exciting things in life. And that's what I've done. And I've happened to be able to make a living. I'm just going through a tough time right now with something that has not my fault. It's the world, as we have a pandemic going on that's shutting me down, but it's not shutting my soul down. It's not shutting my heart down. It's just shutting my business down right now. And I'm going to overcome this adversity, right? And that's what you got to do as a person. Just go kick ass. It's that easy.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, ignore the naysayers and do what you want.
Well, I mean, and to be fair, I mean, I'm lucky to work with people all around the world. I mean, there's a lot of people in the world that don't have that opportunity. Well, they do have the opportunity to kick ass, but the hill that they have to climb to get to ass kicking is higher than, for example, mine, right? Just because of, for whatever reason, where I was born and all that kind of stuff.
Because
so that just makes me want to
United States of America.
Right. But let's not just stop there. That's true. And the point is that the fact that I am farther down starting on the starting line it just means that I need to do this more. Like, I need to take advantage. It's respecting my friends that I meet in the music world that have come from, I have some people from Africa who are just, I have no idea how they got here. I thought I worked hard. And these people are working like, they're so far behind the starting line. That just means that if I don't do this, I'm disrespecting them. The worst thing that I can do is be like, oh, well, I guess I can take it easy now, and so I don't know. It feels like part of us are being encouraging to George and part of us is picking on him at the same time because it's all about you, buddy.
I don't feel good unless people are picking on me. When I get.
But I love what you said, Keith. You get up, you kick ass, and you die.
You're gonna die. That's it. And I'm guaranteeing that. Okay, I'm going to guarantee that. That's how it is.
That's very presumptuous of you, young man. Yeah. But I think I'm with you on this one. I'm on this one.
We were all given a gift, right? Don't waste the gift.
Yeah, don't waste the gift, And I know there's a lot of people that dislike our president. Okay, I know there's a lot of people there. And we could say President Obama or President Trump. Okay? What kind of self-esteem does it take to go be the president of the United States? With all the crap that is thrown at you, President Obama or President Trump, either one, the hardship that goes on your shoulders, right? President Obama said that if it weren't impossible, I would never hear about it. All right, because if it weren't impossible, some smart person down the line would have already solved this problem. So when it reaches my desk, it's impossible to solve, and I get it, right? And we're looking at our president right now, right? And it's like, what kind of attitude does it take? I mean, you know what I'm saying? To go and be that kind of person. Well, Donald Trump, Barack Obama, I don't know, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, they just said, I'm going to go be president. I'm going to go kick ass. I'm going to go do this, right? And they set out and they succeeded. And I'm not making any political statements. I'm just going, wow.
No, you could replace you could replace those people with anybody who's super successful. You could Neil deGrasse Tyson, right? I mean, you could be anybody, right? You're right. Being positive is not something to be ashamed of. Trying really hard is not something to be ashamed of. Looking down at people and going, I'm a fucking black belt, so hey, I don't have to roll with you. That's something to be ashamed of, or whatever. I'll say it if you don't want to.
That is something to be ashamed of.
But I think that it's not pride to say I worked really hard for the things that I have. I'm one of those people that represents an outlier, and so if you don't mind me calling you out here as someone, so are you.
I am.
In other words, people go, hey man, Dad, I think I'm going to be a musician. I mean, most dads are going to be like, that's not going to happen, kid. Why don't you figure something else out, right? Well, jiu-jitsu is relatively young in America, but there are some young people that are going, Dad, I think I'm going to make my money being a jiu-jitsu guy or gal, right? And Dad's going to go, are you crazy? You're my daughter. You're not going to make this a jiu-jitsu. Well, they're going to point at you, and they're going to go, that guy did it, right? They're going to look at me and go, that guy did it. Look, I don't live, I live comfortably. I live humbly. You know, this looks a little nicer than it actually is if you don't turn the camera around. You know, I'm in the entertainment business, but I'm happy, and I make music for a living.
My son came to me, my oldest son came to me and goes, Dad, I want to be a cowboy. That's what he said. He goes, I want to be a cowboy.
Like, what does that even mean?
WTF. Like, that's something out of the 80s. That's an 80s song. All right? I'm thinking to myself. And he goes, Dad, I want to be a cowboy. I go, okay, talk to me about this cowboy thing. What are you talking? Well, I want to train horses. Oh, you want to be a horse trainer? I got you. Okay. Yeah, right? I get you. I see what you're talking about, cowboy. And he goes, Dad, I'm moving to Canada. And I'm like, what the hell, right? Because they have great training up there for horse trainers, right? And I went, you go do that. You go and I want you to go. And he's a horse trainer this day, super happy.
I'm giving you a super hug from dad to dad, man. You did the right thing. You could have been like, hey, you an American or not? You need to go home now. Go back to your McDonald's job. But you didn't, man. Isn't that what America is?
Let me say this.
All this stuff's about.
Here's the inverse of that. I had this friend who was one of my students, and he was a blue belt, and he's a Japanese guy. And he came to America from Japan, and he's visiting. And he was really good at jiu-jitsu, and he loved jiu-jitsu, okay? And I was really, really good, and I would love teaching him. He did everything I told him. Things were going good. Then he had to move back to Japan. Oh, I'm sorry. He moved to Hawaii and was training there for a while, and then he moved back to Japan. I got the news from somebody that he had committed suicide, my friend in Japan. And the reason was because he was talking to his father and said, Dad, I want to be a world champion jiu-jitsu competitor, and that's what I want my life goal to be. And his family completely told him no, he couldn't do it, and he ended by taking his life because he didn't want to go against his family. This is a true story, and it weighed heavily on me because I missed the guy. I can't believe it. I just wish he would call me and talk to me, and I would have talked him out of this, but he didn't go against his family. So it's vitally important, I believe, as a parent, that when your kids want to do something, I mean, not a drug dealer. So, I mean, you're not going to go be a drug dealer.
We're not talking about that.
Yeah, we're not talking about illegal activity. But if you have something that's weird, I'm weird. What's more weird than a jiu-jitsu instructor? But you want to go be a cowboy. You want to play guitar. You want to be a musician. Does it make you happy? Yes. Will you kick ass? Yes. Good. Go kick ass. You're going to die one day.
What a great piece of advice to anyone in a position of power over someone else who can look at someone, and you have a choice. You can look at a young person and you can wreck what they're thinking, or you can hold up what they're thinking. Look,
Mm-hmm.
they're young people. They're probably going to change their mind anyway.
Probably going to change their mind.
Let them. I mean, to me, I don't know. We can go on forever, but for me, the one thing I don't want to die with is regret. And I know that the fastest way that I found when I was a young person to generate regret was to decide that I wasn't good enough, or I wasn't capable enough, or I wasn't lucky enough, or all those things, to actually try the thing that I wanted to do. It's such a simple idea, but I mean, come on, I live in the world of music. That's all I get is young people whose parents wish they would do something else. But it's shocking how many of them go on to have perfectly decent lives as musicians. And if you don't want me, George, pimping a little bit of what's going on, is the coronavirus not proof to all those people in the world? I love, by the way, if you want to get up, then you go, I'm not going to tie myself to the job. I just love training jiu-jitsu, so I'm going to go learn a trade, and I'm going to be great at my trade, and that's great. Nobody's shitting on that. That's great. Do whatever you want to do. You want to literally landscaping, whatever. Do your thing. Be awesome, right? But I live in that world where a lot of people will go, hey, maybe you should get a real job, right? And so it's funny, but if you can find something positive in this whole coronavirus thing, I'm looking at everyone going, what did you do today? Did you maybe some Netflix, some music, some video games, maybe a book, some poetry? Art. The second that you stop moving, you go to the artist, right? So, I mean, it's a wonderful thing. I really wish that we could train right now. I really, really, really wish we could train right now. But I have a feeling that when we come back, this is going to be crazy. This is going to fire up so many warrior class people to just take this to another level. What do you think, George?
I invited you to the Zoom call, the Zoom jiu-jitsu call, where I did a full hour worth of jiu-jitsu.
Riddler wants to.
Hey, wait, let's tell the truth. You were doing the one you invited me to was for a workout, not a jiu-jitsu workout. And I refuse to do Pilates on the internet.
It's not Pilates.
I'm just giving you a hard time, Amanda.
Right. No,
I'm totally giving you a hard time. What Amanda's actually teaching is legit. I legit have another job that I actually have to do. I'm actually working full time right now. I'm very lucky, and I don't want to brag about it. So that's why I wasn't at your class. It's not because I think. And if I can be there, I will do it. Even if you just make me do sit-ups for 30 minutes, I will still do it.
Oh my God,
because I care about you, Amanda. No, I know that you are.
30 minutes of jiu-jitsu. We do 10 minutes of weights, and then the rest is all abs. That's the class. Yeah.
What is it with people who are smaller than me and abs? But anyway. All right.
They make your jiu-jitsu good.
Thank you for coming on, man, and talking to us on a Friday night in the middle of the corona apocalypse, man. It's been great.
Well, I was super busy and had a lot going on, so I was like, but I'll fit you in. It was okay.
Could you please?
A lot of fun.
Could you please, well, you haven't met Jay either, so could you please do me a favor, please, and talk a little bit more about your book? You said, do you have just one book? Have you written more books?
I just have one book, but I am an author. I feel good about that, right? That's a bucket list thing. But it's called From the Ground Up, and my name is KeithOwen, if you didn't pick that up. I also
get that part.
Like, who was that guy? I also have a new video that's going to be coming out on BJJ Fanatics as well. I did a whole.
Wow, you and Danaher, right? Like this, like that. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah,
congratulations.
We hang out a lot. Danaher and I hang out a lot. You know, I'm lying. That's good. I don't know him at all. I'd love to hang out with him though. I just want to talk to him.
Sure, yeah.
I seriously, I just want to sit and talk with you. That's just brilliant. I think has a brilliant mind. Anyway, moving on. I did this video for those guys, so that'll be coming out soon too. It's on Side Control.
What is the video on?
Ironically, Side Control Top. Even though I like the bottom, I looked and went, yeah. There's not a lot of Side Control Top games. It's called the Barca Lounger. It's the Barca Lounger Side Control System. It's not. Is it for gi or no gi? Yes.
Okay.
Works either way.
It's not just the lapel system or whatever.
There's some chokes with the lapel, but you don't have to. It works the same way, and it's really a crucifix from the front and side control, where you have their arm and they have both arms, one between your legs.
The Barca Lounger.
Yeah, call it the Barca Lounger because you're just reclining, right? And you can sit self-defense, pound that guy. It's so cool.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it a little bit demoralizing to be caught in the Barca Lounger?
It's very demoralizing, yeah.
Excellent. So it's top, it's side control. You could throw somebody into it if you knew some judo.
Great for a small person on a big person.
You could get into the Barca Lounger. You could, if it was your friend, you could talk shit.
Mm-hmm. You could punch him in the face a lot too. He's not your friend.
They're your friend. Maybe just talk shit. But yeah, sounds like my kind of thing. I can't wait for it.
It's totally fun, and the video turned out great. So that's coming out too. So I'm just trying to kick ass, man.
Very good. Keep up the good work.
Seriously, man.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys having me.
I look forward to when this is over and we get to come see you again, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'd like to be back. You guys are awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome, brother. Have a great night, man.
Yep.
Stay
All
healthy.
right. Thanks a lot. Bye, Riddler.
See ya.